Today we conclude our 2-week study of angelic encounters in Daniel, focusing on the enigmatic man dressed in linen in Daniel 10 and 12. We'll explore his identity, arguing he's a pre-incarnate Christ, not merely an angel, challenging James Hamilton's two-figure theory. Key passages highlight his priestly attire, divine attributes, and unique role as both warrior and revealer, distinct from Gabriel and Michael. We'll connect his appearance to Revelation 1 Son of Man and Revelation 5 Lion Lamb, emphasizing parallels in authority and transformative power. Additional connections to Moses, Exodus 4, and Zechariah, Luke 1, underscore his divine ability to overcome human weakness. A Jonathan Edwards quote will reinforce Christ's centrality in the spiritual realm. This session unveils the cosmic struggle, uniting heaven and earth, and assures us of Christ's victory in our spiritual battles. Join us as we glimpse the unseen realm and deepen our awe of Jesus' eternal work. Let's begin with prayer. Father in heaven, we acknowledge your sovereign power and authority over the spiritual realm. As we study the role of angels in Daniel, remind us of your constant presence and protection in our lives. May we be encouraged by the knowledge that we have powerful allies in the heavenly realms fighting on our behalf. Amen. As I think back to last week, we had such a rich time digging into those angelic encounters in Daniel. It really opened up a whole new perspective. We talked about how angels act as God's messengers and warriors, bridging heaven and earth in some incredible ways. I remember us starting with Gabriel, that faithful messenger who steps in to interpret visions and deliver divine messages, like in chapters 8 and 9. Then there's Michael, the mighty archangel, standing guard over Israel and fighting spiritual battles. We saw that come up in 10 and 12. We also touched on those mysterious watchers in chapter 4, holy beings issuing divine decrees, hinting at the spiritual warfare behind the scenes. And who could forget that unnamed messenger in chapter 10, this glorious figure delivering messages while engaging in warfare? That led us to a big question. Could some of these be Christophanies? We looked at the Son of Man in chapter 7, often seen as a pre-incarnate Christ, and that intriguing man in linen from 10. His divine appearance got us wondering if he might be Jesus before his incarnation. It was a great starting point, and it's got me excited to dive deeper today. Also, thinking back on last week, we really unpacked some fascinating layers in Daniel, didn't we? One thing that stood out was how certain stories connect, like the fiery furnace in chapter 3 and the lion's den in chapter 6. We talked about how God sent angels to deliver Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from the flames, and Daniel from those lions, showing that heavenly help is real, even if we don't always see it. James Hamilton's chiastic structure also came up, tracing a beautiful arc from exile to resurrection, with kingdoms giving way to God's eternal rule. It really tied the book together. We noticed how angels step in to interpret visions in chapters 7 and 8, while Daniel himself decodes dreams in 2 and 4, highlighting that divine insight flows through both. Theologically, it hit home that angels carry out God's will, protect us, and fight spiritual battles, giving us that deep assurance of his presence and victory in the unseen struggles we face. It was a great foundation, and I'm excited to build on it today. As we begin this morning, I'll argue that the man dressed in linen in Daniel 10 and 12 is a pre-incarnate Christ, distinct from angels like Gabriel and Michael. This contrasts with James Hamilton's view, which we'll explore later, suggesting two figures in Daniel 10 with uncompelling reasoning. I invite you to weigh both arguments. Regardless of where we land, the heavenly realm's significance remains undisputed and vital to our understanding. Here are today's key passages. The glorious man, dressed in linen and end-time figures. Daniel 10, a certain man dressed in linen, his face like lightning. I have come in response to your words. Daniel 12, 2 others were standing, and one said to the man dressed in linen. These passages center on the man in linen, whose vivid description and actions in Daniel 10 and 12 set him apart. His lightning-like face and priestly attire suggest a divine figure, not just an angel. He responds to Daniel's prayers, reveals future events, and is questioned by other angels in Daniel 12, pointing to his authority. We'll argue he's a pre-incarnate Christ, connecting his appearance to Revelation 1's Son of Man and his interactions to Moses and Zechariah's encounters, challenging Hamilton's two-figure theory with a unified portrait of one divine being. Let's read more of this first passage. Daniel 10:4-6. On the 24th day of the first month, while I was by the bank of the Tigris, I lifted my eyes and looked, and behold, there was a certain man dressed in linen, whose waist was girded with a belt of pure gold of Uphaz. His body also was like beryl, his face had the appearance of lightning, his eyes were like flaming torches, his arms and feet like the gleam of polished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a tumult. This description is breathtaking. Daniel sees this figure by the Tigris, and the details: linen garments, gold belt, beryl body, lightning face, fiery eyes, bronze limbs, tumultuous voice, scream divinity. The linen evokes Leviticus's priestly attire, symbolizing heavenly service, which would resonate with a Jewish audience. Unlike Gabriel or Michael, whose appearances aren't detailed, this figure's description is elaborate, mirroring Revelation 1:12-16's Son of Man, with a long robe, golden sash, fiery eyes, and voice like many waters. This is my first point against Hamilton. The man in linen's distinct priestly and divine attributes suggest he's not an angel but the pre-incarnate Christ, prefiguring the glorified Christ in Revelation. Let's continue. Then behold, a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. 11 He said to me, O Daniel, man of high esteem, understand the words that I am about to tell you, and stand upright, for I have now been sent to you. And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood up trembling. Then he said to me, Do not be afraid, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart on understanding this, and on humbling yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to your words. 13 But the prince of the kingdom of Persia was withstanding me for 21 days. Then behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left there with the kings of Persia. The man in linen's touch overwhelms Daniel, causing him to tremble and fall, yet he gently urges Daniel to stand, calling him a man of high esteem. He's sent in response to Daniel's prayers, delayed by the prince of Persia until Michael assists. Hamilton suggests the hand belongs to a second figure, but the text flows as one interaction. This figure combines Gabriel's revelatory role, responding to prayers like Gabriel did with Zechariah in Luke 1, and Michael's warrior role, battling spiritual forces. His humility, needing Michael's help, echoes Jesus in the wilderness, ministered to by angels. Recall this passage in Matthew 4. Then Jesus said to him, Go, Satan, for it is written, You shall worship the Lord your God, and serve him only. Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and began to minister to him. If Jesus in his incarnation was helped by angels, why would there not be an opportunity for angels in his pre-incarnate form to also employ the help of angels such as Michael? I think it is fully appropriate. This dual role, priest and king, points to a pre-incarnate Christ, not a mere angel, challenging Hamilton's view with a unified figure whose actions mirror Christ's in Revelation 5. Let's read further. 14. Now I have come to give you an understanding of what will happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision pertains to the days yet future. When he had spoken to me according to these words, I turned my face toward the ground and became speechless. 16 And behold, one who resembled a human being was touching my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spoke and said to him who was standing before me, O my Lord, as a result of the vision anguish has come upon me, and I have retained no strength. 17 For how can such a servant of my Lord talk with such as my Lord? As for me, there remains just now no strength in me, nor has any breath been left in me. The man in linen reveals future events, but his presence leaves Daniel speechless and weak. A touch to Daniel's lips, likely by the same figure, described as human-like, restores his speech. Hamilton claims this is a second figure, but the context suggests one being the man in linen, whose touch transforms. This recalls Moses, hesitant to speak in Exodus 4, where God provides Aaron and Zechariah struck mute by Gabriel in Luke 1 until John's birth. The man in linen's ability to cause and cure speechlessness underscores his divine power, unlike Gabriel's or Michael's effects on Daniel. This aligns with Revelation 1's Son of Man, whose presence overwhelms John, supporting our case for a pre-incarnate Christ over Hamilton's two-figure theory. Let's read the final Daniel 10 passage. 18. Then this one with human appearance touched me again and strengthened me. He said, O man of high esteem, do not be afraid. Peace be with you. Take courage and be courageous. Now as soon as he spoke to me, I received strength and said, May my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Then he said, Do you understand why I came to you? But I shall now return to fight against the prince of Persia. So I am going forth, and behold, the prince of Greece is about to come. 21. However, I will tell you what is inscribed in the writing of truth. Yet there is no one who stands firmly with me against these forces, except Michael, your prince. The man in linen's second touch strengthens Daniel, offering peace and courage. He reveals the writing of truth and his ongoing battle with the prince of Persia, with the prince of Greece next, showing awareness of God's plan. Like Daniel 2's multi-metal statue, only Michael stands with him, but he leads, saying, Michael stands with me, not vice versa. Hamilton's two-figure idea falters. The consistent actions, touching, strengthening, revealing, point to one being. This figure's dual role as revealer and warrior, unlike Gabriel or Michael alone, mirrors Revelation 5's lion and lamb who opens the scroll and overcomes. The Moses and Zechariah parallels, overcoming speechlessness, further suggest a divine figure, supporting our case for a pre-incarnate Christ. Now, let's read Daniel 12:5-7. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, two others were standing, one on this bank of the river, and the other on that bank of the river. And one said to the man dressed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, How long will it be until the end of these wonders? I heard the man dressed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, as he raised his right hand and his left toward heaven, and swore by him who lives forever that it would be for a time, times, and half a time. The man in linen reappears, hovering above the waters, a divine stance of authority. Two angels question him about the end times, and he responds with an oath, referencing a time, times, and half a time, echoing Revelation's tribulation periods, Revelation 12:14. His elevated position and knowledge set him apart, unlike Gabriel or Michael, who don't receive such deference. This connects to Revelation 1's Son of Man, who holds divine authority, and Revelation 5's Lion Lamb, who reveals God's plan. The Zechariah parallel, Gabriel's interaction in Luke 1, shows angels as messengers, but the man in linen's leadership points to a pre-incarnate Christ, reinforcing our case against Hamilton. Let's summarize the man in linen's interactions, building our case. The man dressed in linen appears to Daniel in a glorious vision by the Tigris River, described with a radiant appearance, body like beryl, face like lightning, eyes like torches, arms and feet like polished bronze, and voice like a multitude. The sight of the man in linen overwhelms Daniel, causing him to fall on his face in fear and lose strength, with his face to the ground. The figure speaks, and Daniel hears his words, though initially he is overcome and falls into a deep sleep. A hand, presumably the man in linens, touches Daniel, setting him trembling on his hands and knees. This summary highlights the man in linen's divine impact. His radiant priestly appearance mirrors Revelation 1:12-16's Son of Man, with fiery eyes and a tumultuous voice, suggesting he's Christ, not an angel. His overwhelming presence, causing Daniel to fall, is unique. Gabriel and Michael don't elicit this response. His touch, raising Daniel, recalls Moses' speech struggles, Exodus 4, and Zechariah's muteness, Luke 1, showing divine power to transform. These actions point to one figure, the man in linen, whose priestly and divine attributes align with the pre-incarnate Christ, prefiguring his work in Revelation. Continuing the summary, a figure speaks to Daniel, calling him a man of high esteem and urging him to stand upright, indicating he was sent to him. The man in linen touches Daniel again, strengthening him and encouraging him to be strong and fearless as he continues to speak. He informs Daniel of his purpose, to reveal what is inscribed in the book of truth, and explain the spiritual conflict involving the Prince of Persia and Michael's assistants. The figure shares a message about future events concerning Daniel's people in the latter days, leading into the detailed prophecy in Daniel 11. The man in linen's encouragement and strengthening touch are transformative, unlike Gabriel's or Michael's interactions. His role as revealer of the book of truth parallels Revelation 5's Lion Lamb, who opens the scroll, and his battle with the Prince of Persia echoes Christ's victory in Revelation 19. The Moses and Zechariah connections, restoring speech, highlight his divine authority. Hamilton's two-figure theory doesn't hold. The man in linen's consistent actions and leadership over Michael point to one divine being. His priestly attire, warrior role, and prophetic insight suggest a pre-incarnate Christ, uniting heaven and earth as seen in Revelation's visions. Here's Hamilton's view. Since Daniel does not do this, we have warrant for suggesting that there are at least two figures in Daniel 10, the man clothed in linen, and then whoever it was who touched and spoke with Daniel later in the chapter. Hamilton argues that Daniel's failure to identify the man in linen as the Son of Man from Daniel 7 implies two figures. I disagree. The man in linen's priestly linen, divine attributes and actions, causing trembling, restoring speech, delivering prophecy, mirror Revelation 1's Son of Man and Revelation 5's Lion Lamb. Scripture often reveals Christ through actions, not explicit labels, like the Passover lamb or the temple. The Moses, Exodus 4, and Zechariah, Luke 1, parallels show divine intervention in human weakness, pointing to Christ's transformative power. The man in linen's leadership in battle and revelation, unlike Gabriel or Michael, supports a single divine figure, a pre-incarnate Christ, challenging Hamilton's assumption. Let's reflect on Daniel's broader context. The book unites heaven and earth, from earthly kingdoms to heavenly visions, as seen in the chiastic structure and Daniel 7's Son of Man. The man in linen's priestly attire and divine role fit this theme, prefiguring Christ's work in Revelation 1 and 5, where he's the Son of Man and Lion Lamb. His interactions with Daniel, overcoming speechlessness like Moses, Exodus 4, or Zechariah, Luke 1, show a divine figure bridging the spiritual and physical. This strengthens our case. The man in linen is one figure, not two, whose actions point to Christ's eternal authority. So let's read Revelation 5:4-6. Then I began to weep greatly because no one was found worthy to open the book or to look into it. 5, and one of the elders said to me, Stop weeping. Behold, the Lion that is from the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has overcome so as to open the book and its 7 seals. 6, and I saw between the throne, with the 4 living creatures and the elders, a lamb standing as if slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God, sent out into all the earth. This throne room scene connects directly to Daniel 10. John weeps over an unopened scroll, but the Lion of Judah, the root of David, is revealed as a slain lamb, Christ, who opens the scroll. This mirrors the man in linen's dual role, battling like Michael, revealing like Gabriel. Daniel's distress, like John's, is resolved by this divine figure's presence, who strengthens and reveals. The Moses and Zechariah parallels, transforming weakness, echo here as Christ overcomes human limitations. The man in linen's actions align with the Lion Lamb's authority, suggesting a pre-incarnate Christ, not a separate angel. So let's read Revelation 1:12-16. Then I turned to see the voice that was speaking with me. And having turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands. And in the middle of the lampstands I saw one like a son of man, clothed in a robe reaching to the feet, and girded across his chest with a golden sash. His head and his hair were white like white wool, like snow, and his eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, when it has been made to glow in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of many waters. In his right hand he held 7 stars, and out of his mouth came a sharp 2-edged sword, and his face was like the sun shining in its strength. The Son of Man in Revelation 1 is nearly identical to Daniel's man in linen. Priestly robe and sash, fiery eyes, bronze feet, voice like many waters. This is unmistakable evidence. Daniel 7's Son of Man, claimed by Jesus, connects here, showing Christ's eternal presence. The man in linen's overwhelming effect on Daniel, like Moses' hesitation, Exodus 4, or Zechariah's muteness, Luke 1, mirrors John's reaction to the Son of Man. Hamilton's objection that Daniel should have identified him misses the biblical pattern of revealing Christ through attributes, not labels. The man in linen is the pre-incarnate Christ, not an angel, unifying Daniel and Revelation. Let's read 2 more passages. Revelation 15, verse 6. And the 7 angels who had the 7 plagues came out of the temple, clothed in linen, clean and bright, and girded around their chests with golden sashes. Revelation 19:14. And the armies which are in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, were following him on white horses. These verses show linen in Revelation, but the man in linen's role is unique. The angels in Revelation 15 are subordinates, executing judgments, and the armies in Revelation 19 follow Christ. The man in linen, however, leads, answers angels' questions, Daniel 12, and reveals the book of truth, like the Son of Man in Revelation 1 or the Lion Lamb in Revelation 5. His transformative touch, recalling Moses, Exodus 4, and Zechariah, Luke 1, and his authority over Michael point to a pre-incarnate Christ, not a typical angel. Let's consider Jonathan Edwards' insight. The angels that stood are doubtless confirmed in holiness and their allegiance to God, so that they never will sin, and they are out of every danger of it. But yet I believe God makes use of means to confirm them. They were confirmed by the sight of the terrible destruction that God brought upon the angels that fell. They are confirmed by finding, by experience, their own happiness in standing and finding the mistake of the angels that fell, with respect to that which was their temptation, and by new and greater manifestations of the glory of God, which have been successively made in heaven and by his dispensations towards the church, and above all, by the work of redemption by Jesus Christ. Edwards underscores Christ's centrality in the angelic realm, confirming their holiness through his redemptive work. The man in linen's actions, battling, revealing, strengthening Daniel, reflect this, prefiguring Christ's victory in Revelation 5 and 19. His transformative touch, like God's provision for Moses, Exodus 4, and Zechariah, Luke 1, and his leadership over angels align with Edwards' view of Christ as the ultimate purpose. This supports our case. The man in linen is a pre-incarnate Christ, not a second figure as Hamilton suggests, uniting Daniel's visions with Revelation's portrayal of Jesus. Let's reflect on the significance. Angelic encounters offer a glimpse into the spiritual world, where God's purposes are enacted and a cosmic struggle unfolds. They remind us of the unseen reality and our part in a larger spiritual battle. Gabriel's interpretations highlight seeking divine insight, while Michael's protection assures us of God's appointed defender. They reveal the active role of spiritual beings in God's plans and the ongoing conflict between good and evil. How do they help us understand the spiritual realm? These encounters reveal the spiritual realm's reality. Gabriel's insight, like in Zechariah's encounter, Luke 1, urges us to seek God's wisdom. Michael's protection, as in Daniel 12, assures us of divine defense. But the man in linen, with his priestly role and divine authority, points to Christ, as seen in Revelation 1 and 5. His transformative interactions, echoing Moses and Zechariah's experiences, show Christ's power to redeem and reveal, uniting heaven and earth. This challenges us to trust in his victory, living with a heavenly perspective in the cosmic battle. In conclusion, the man in linen's divine attributes, transformative touch and leadership, connected to Revelation's Son of Man and Lion Lamb, as well as Moses' and Zechariah's encounters, point to a pre-incarnate Christ. Contra Hamilton, one figure unifies Daniel 10, revealing Jesus' eternal work. May this deepen our awe and trust in his victory. Let's close with prayer. Father in heaven, we acknowledge your sovereign power and authority over the spiritual realm. As we conclude this session, may we remember the active role of angels in your plans and purposes. Thank you for the comfort and assurance that comes from knowing we have powerful allies in the heavenly realms fighting on our behalf. May we continue to seek your guidance and protection as we navigate the spiritual battles of this world. Amen. Please join us next week where we'll explore typological patterns in Daniel, uncovering how events and figures in the book prefigure Jesus Christ and his ministry. We'll define typology as a method of reading the Old Testament that sees people, events, or institutions as foreshadowing New Testament realities, emphasizing Daniel's rich connections to Christ. Key examples include the fiery furnace, Daniel 3, foreshadowing Jesus' triumph over death, Daniel in the lion's den, Daniel 6, typifying Christ's suffering and resurrection, the Son of Man, Daniel 7, prefiguring the Messiah, the 70 weeks prophecy, Daniel 9, pointing to Jesus' life and death, and the resurrection, Daniel 12, anticipating the final resurrection. Using James Hamilton's chiastic structure, we'll connect these to New Testament fulfillments, exploring how typology reveals God's unified, redemptive plan. We'll discuss how these patterns strengthen our faith in Jesus as the fulfillment of God's promises, encouraging us to apply these truths to our lives. Join us to see the beauty of Scripture's interconnectedness and Christ's centrality.